There are evenings when a room feels expensive enough to behave like a person. It watches you, weighs you, and decides whether you belong before anyone has even said hello. The ballroom at the Wilshire Halden had that kind of confidence. Gold light spilled from chandeliers in soft, deliberate layers, catching on champagne flutes, diamond earrings, polished cufflinks, and the glossy leaves of enormous floral arrangements that looked less arranged than strategically conquered. The walls were hung with modern pieces from a private collection, abstract bursts of wine, charcoal, bone white, and copper, and the entire room smelled faintly of lilies, perfume, citrus peel, and money that had been quietly multiplying for generations. Los Angeles knew how to put on a charity gala. It also knew how to pretend charity was the main point. I stood near the edge of the ballroom with a glass of champagne I had no intention of finishing, smiling at a man who had been explaining his investment philosophy to me for almost 12 minutes without once asking a question. He had a silver watch, a soft jawline, and the expression of someone who believed the word disruption still sounded original. I gave him the look I used in boardrooms when someone said something foolish but legally harmless. Attentive. Calm. Mildly encouraging. Dead inside. My team has been looking very closely at property data integration, he said. There's a lot of opportunity in that space. Yes, I said. I've heard. Because I ran a company in that space. Because he knew I ran a company in that space. Because men like him often mistook proximity to a subject for mastery of it, and women like me were expected to be flattered by the attempt. Across the room, my mother laughed. Not laughed exactly. Performed amusement. Evelyn Dawson could turn her head 20 degrees, touch someone's sleeve with 2 fingers, and make 3 people nearby feel underdressed. She wore a deep plum gown with long sleeves, diamonds at her ears, and the kind of composure that suggested she had never once entered a room without improving the property value. She was surrounded, as usual. A retired studio executive, 2 philanthropists, a museum board chair, a woman from Bel Air who had once told me, with genuine sorrow, that her second home in Aspen had lost its intimacy after the renovation. My mother looked radiant among them. She also looked dangerous. Those 2 things were often the same thing with Evelyn Dawson. Vivian. Her voice cut through the hum of the room with perfect precision, soft enough not to draw attention and sharp enough to end my suffering. I turned with immediate gratitude. The investment philosopher was still mid-sentence. "Excuse me," I said. "My mother needs me." He looked disappointed, which was unfortunate for both of us, because I could not imagine why. My mother extended a hand as I approached, and I took it automatically. She kissed the air near my cheek, her perfume warm and expensive, something ambered and floral. "You look like you were about to commit a financial crime," she murmured. "I was considering something smaller. A misdemeanor." "Good girl. Always begin modestly." I took a slow sip of champagne to avoid smiling too much. Encouraging my mother was a dangerous hobby. One laugh and she took it as consent to reorganize your entire life. "I hope you're enjoying yourself," she said. "That depends. Is anyone else going to explain my own industry to me?" "Almost certainly." "Wonderful. I do love tradition." Her eyes warmed. "You handled Philip nicely. I don't know who Philip is." "The man who just bored you." "That was Philip?" "I believe so. You invited him." "I invited his wife." Philip arrived attached. That was my mother's view of many men. Objects that arrived attached. She turned slightly, scanning the ballroom with the quiet satisfaction of a general viewing a battlefield after an elegant victory. This gala supported an arts education foundation she had chaired for 3 years, which meant the flowers were better, the guest list sharper, and the silent auction dramatically more competitive than it had any moral right to be. "I'm proud of you tonight," she said. That caught me off guard. My mother praised selectively. Not coldly, never coldly, but with enough precision that it always landed. She could compliment your earrings and somehow make it feel like a performance review. "For standing through Philip?" I asked. "For what you built." Her gaze shifted to mine. "Half this room has invested in something, acquired something, inherited something, or ruined something. You built something. It matters." I looked away first. Naturally. Emotional sincerity from my mother before 9 p.m. was rude. "It's a business," I said. "It's your business. It has employees, not a soul." "Darling, most people in this room have souls with worse management." I nearly laughed into my champagne. She looked pleased with herself. Not smug. Warmly delighted. As if she had set a small verbal fire and was enjoying the glow. Then her eyes moved past my shoulder, and something in her expression sharpened. "Oh good," she said. "Alexandra is here." I turned back. "Alexandra who?" "Brooks." The name landed with mild recognition first, then an immediate and private irritation. Alexandra Brooks. Alex. My mother's trainer. Wellness consultant. Occasional miracle worker, according to every woman over 45 in her circle who had suddenly developed excellent posture and an unbearable enthusiasm for mobility work. I had met her twice, possibly 3 times, depending on whether one counted the day my mother had lured me to something she called restorative yoga, and I had discovered, too late, that the restoration required effort. Alex had taught the class with bare feet, calm authority, and the kind of easy physical confidence that made everyone else in the room look like we had borrowed our own bodies for the afternoon. I remembered her because she had smiled at me after I failed to hold a pose for more than 4 seconds and said, "Your shoulders are negotiating with your pride." I had not appreciated it. Accurate observations rarely improved my mood. "You invited Alex?" I asked. "Yes." "To this gala?" "For balance." I looked at her. "Balance. You know exactly what I mean." "I truly don't." "You do." "I love my friends, but after 2 hours of people saying impact and legacy while bidding on private wine tastings, one needs someone in the room who can still identify a hamstring. That is a very specific social need. She amuses me. That is never safe. She tells very rich people the truth with a polite face. I find that refreshing. You find that recreational." "Yes," my mother said. "That too." I followed her gaze across the ballroom. And there she was. Alexandra Brooks had arrived without making an entrance, which somehow made the room notice her more. She wore a simple black dress. It should have looked understated. On Alexandra Brooks, it looked like a legal gray area. The dress was elegant, restrained, almost severe in its simplicity, falling cleanly over her frame and stopping just below the knee. It did not sparkle. It did not beg. It did not perform the desperate little dance that so many gala dresses did under chandelier light. It simply understood the assignment and let her body do the rest. She was slightly taller than I remembered. Or perhaps I had been distracted during yoga by the quiet humiliation of discovering my hips had opinions. Her dark blonde hair was swept back loosely, not fussy, not careless, and her skin had that warm, healthy glow of someone who spent time outdoors voluntarily, which I considered suspicious. She paused near the entrance, accepted a glass of champagne from a passing server, and said something to the woman beside her that made the woman laugh too loudly and touch her own necklace. Of course. Alex smiled, not broadly, not flirtatiously exactly. Just enough. She had the kind of confidence women usually either wanted to sleep with or report to a committee. I was still deciding which category felt more responsible. "She looks well," my mother said. "That's her brand, isn't it?" "Vivian." "What?" Try not to sound like a woman personally offended by muscle tone. "I am not offended by muscle tone." "Good. Then your face is doing something unfortunate on its own." I turned my face toward her slowly. "Mother." "Yes. You invited her because she amuses you." "Yes." "And for balance." "Yes." "And not because you are about to begin one of your little projects." Her brows lifted. My mother had a talent for looking innocent that would have insulted a jury. "I don't have little projects," she said. "You once convinced a senator's wife to leave her husband by seating her next to a French architect for 4 dinners. That was not a project. That was mercy. You rearranged the entire guest list." She had been wearing beige for 14 years. "Mother. She's happy now. She moved to Provence." "Exactly." Before I could answer, Alex looked our way. Her eyes found my mother first, warmed with recognition, then moved to me. Green. I had forgotten that. Not pale, not soft. A clear, steady green that looked amused before her mouth did. She crossed the room with the smooth ease of someone who knew how to move through crowds without shrinking or performing. People glanced at her, assessed her, tried to place her. Actress? Investor? Someone's daughter? Someone's wife? The LA categories of relevance. Alex did not seem to care which drawer they put her in. That, I admit, was interesting. "Unfortunately." "Evelyn," she said when she reached us. My mother extended both hands. Alex took them, and they kissed cheeks with the familiarity of women who had survived lunges together. "You came," my mother said. You invited me to watch wealthy people donate aggressively under soft lighting. How could I refuse? My mother laughed, delighted. I looked down into my glass. There it was. The hobby. Vivian Dawson, Alex said, turning to me. Not Viv. Good. She knew the rules of distance, at least in public. Alexandra Brooks. Her mouth curved. That sounded like a legal notice. I've been standing near lawyers all evening. It may be contagious. Tragic. Should I keep 6 feet away? That depends. Are you insured? My mother's eyes moved between us with far too much interest. Alex took a sip of champagne. For most things. Most. I work with rich clients. Absolute statements are dangerous. My mother made a soft sound of appreciation. See? This is why I invited her. For liability commentary? For honesty. I charge extra for honesty, Alex said. You undercharge, my mother replied. Alex smiled at her. I tell you that every week. And I ignore you beautifully. You ignore me with excellent posture now. Yes, my mother said proudly. I'm unbearable in a healthier way. Alex's eyes moved to me again. Did she force you into the charity circuit tonight? My mother doesn't force, I said. She creates conditions under which refusal looks socially primitive. Alex nodded as if this were useful data. Efficient. Dangerous. Those often overlap. My mother looked radiant. I should have walked away then. That was my first mistake. Not walking away from 2 women who enjoyed each other's sharp edges was negligence. I knew better. I had been raised by one of them. A server passed with tiny spoons bearing something pale and architectural. My mother took one. Alex did not. I did not. We watched Evelyn examine it. What is this? She asked. The server, who looked 19 and terrified of ingredients, said, whipped cauliflower with preserved lemon and black sesame. My mother considered it. How brave of cauliflower. Alex's lips twitched. The server blinked. I rescued him with a smile. Thank you. He fled. You're cruel, I told my mother. I'm honest. You frightened him. He'll recover with stronger calves if he sees Alexandra. Alex lifted a hand. Please don't recruit for me at the cauliflower station. I recruit everywhere. I've noticed. You should thank me. I should increase your rate. My mother waved this off. Money is so dull when one has enough of it. Alex's expression did not shift, but something in her eyes sharpened. Not offense exactly. Assessment. Money is only dull when it behaves, she said. My mother looked delighted again. I studied Alex despite myself. There were plenty of people in this room who would have laughed too quickly at my mother's line. Plenty who would have agreed because Evelyn Dawson had said it. Plenty who would have turned money into a joke only people with too much of it could safely make. Alex did not. She corrected without correcting. Politely. Smoothly. No resentment. No performance. Just a line drawn exactly where she wanted it. Interesting. Again, unfortunately, my mother saw that I had noticed. Of course she did. Evelyn Dawson missed nothing except boundaries, and only because she considered them decorative. You still haven't come back to class, Alex said to me. I've been busy. Everyone says that. Everyone might be correct. Sometimes. Usually they mean uncomfortable. I looked at her. Are you accusing me of avoiding discomfort? Not accusing. Observing. You've observed me for a total of 90 minutes. And your shoulders did most of the talking. My mother made a delighted sound. I turned my head slowly. Please don't encourage her. I'm not encouraging, my mother said. I'm witnessing. Alex's smile deepened. You were good, actually. I did not expect that. It must have shown, because her expression changed, just slightly. Less teasing. More direct. You listened, she said. You were annoyed about listening, but you did it. That's possibly the least romantic compliment I've ever received. Oh, I can do worse. I'm sure. Your plank was honest. My mother choked lightly on champagne. I stared at Alex. She held my gaze with perfect calm. My first mistake had been not walking away. My second was finding her funny. Not visibly, obviously. I was not reckless. But internally, something in me shifted by half an inch. Alexandra Brooks looked at me like I was a locked door, and she had never met a lock she didn't enjoy studying. Unfortunately for her, I was not a door. I was an entire security system with trust issues. Vivian, a voice said from behind us. I turned. Arthur Wexley approached with his familiar old money glide, wearing a dark tuxedo, white hair, and the kind of smile that made people believe their names had been placed on lists without their consent. Arthur was not unpleasant. That would have been too easy. He was polished, generous in public, traditional in the way men became traditional when tradition had always served them. My mother's hand found my wrist. Lightly, then not lightly. "Oh, God help us," she murmured. I looked at her from the side. Arthur reached us. "Evelyn," he said, kissing my mother's cheek. "You've outdone yourself." "I'm devastated you're surprised," she replied. He laughed, though not quite quickly enough to prove he understood the danger. "And Vivian," he said, turning to me. "You look exceptional." "Thank you, Arthur. You always do your mother proud." My mother has high production standards. She always did. His eyes moved to Alex. "And I don't believe we've met." "Alexandra Brooks," Alex said, extending her hand. Arthur shook it, assessing with the polished interest of a man deciding which category she belonged to. "Arthur Wexley." "I know," Alex said. "Evelyn has mentioned you." Arthur looked pleased. My mother looked amused. I looked at Alex and wondered whether she had meant that kindly. Impossible to tell. Promising. "Good things, I hope," Arthur said. "Useful things," Alex replied. My mother took a sip of champagne. Arthur gave a small laugh. "Well, I'll take useful at my age." "Brave," Alex said. His smile faltered for half a second, then returned. "I should not have enjoyed that." "I did." Arthur turned his attention back to me. "My son is here tonight." My mother's fingers tightened around my wrist. Ah, there it was. "He's been meaning to speak with you," Arthur continued. "He's very interested in what you're building." "Quite impressed, actually." "Kind of him," I said. "Not kind. Sensible." "He's been looking at adjacent acquisitions, and I told him, if you want to understand where the market is moving, speak with Vivian Dawson." That was generous. It was accurate. I felt my mother shift beside me. Arthur glanced over his shoulder. "He's just there." "James." "Mother, no," I thought. Actually, I did not think it. I said it. Quietly. Through my teeth. "Mother, no." My mother smiled at Arthur with the gentle warmth of a woman preparing to do something irreversible. Then she reached for Alex's hand. Alex looked down at Evelyn's fingers closing around hers. I looked at my mother. Slowly. Evelyn said, in a voice bright enough to carry and soft enough to seem intimate, "Arthur, darling, I should have told you earlier. Vivian and Alexandra are engaged." The room did not stop. Rooms never did that in real life. Music continued. Glasses clinked. Somewhere, someone laughed too loudly at a board member's joke. But the air around us changed so completely that it may as well have shattered. Arthur blinked. Alex went still. I forgot briefly how to breathe without committing murder. My mother held both our hands like a priestess at a small, tasteful sacrifice. Arthur's smile opened and closed before settling into a new shape. "Engaged," he said. "Yes," my mother said. Her voice was perfect. Warm. Proud. Final. I turned my head toward her. "You really can't help yourself, do you?" Alex's fingers were still in my mother's hand. She had not pulled away, which I respected. Or distrusted. Possibly both. Arthur looked at me, then at Alex, then back at me. "Well," he said. "That is wonderful news." "Yes," I said. It came out like a threat. Alex glanced at me. Her mouth twitched. "Not now," I wanted to say. "Do not find this funny. Do not you dare." "I had no idea," Arthur said. "It's recent," Evelyn replied. That was one word for it. "Very recent," I said. Alex added, "Remarkably." My mother ignored us beautifully. Arthur's son arrived at that precise moment, summoned by paternal confidence and terrible timing. James Wexley had the clean, expensive look of a man whose shirts were pressed by someone who knew his coffee order. He was handsome in the way furniture in staging homes was handsome, appropriate, neutral, and unlikely to surprise anyone. "James," Arthur said, visibly adjusting his plan midair. "You know Vivian Dawson, of course." "We've met," James said, smiling. "Once. At a private dinner where he had spent 20 minutes explaining zoning law to me incorrectly." "Vivian," he said. "Good to see you again." "You too." "And this is Alexandra Brooks," Arthur said. "Vivian's fiancé." James's smile paused. Only for a second. Then it returned, almost perfectly. Almost was my favorite word in rooms like this. "Congratulations," he said. Thank you, Alex replied. She said it calmly, smoothly, like a woman who had not been publicly engaged against her 30 seconds earlier by my mother. I looked at her. She looked back. Wrong woman, sweetheart, I thought automatically, though I was no longer entirely sure which one of us I meant. James lifted his glass. That's wonderful. I didn't realize you were seeing someone. Private life, I said. Terribly private. Alex made a soft sound that could have been agreement or amusement. Arthur recovered faster than his son. Men like Arthur had survived market crashes, divorces, board coups, and daughters who married musicians. A surprise fiancé was inconvenient, not fatal. Well, he said, I'm delighted for you. Both of you. Very kind, Evelyn said. James looked at Alex. And what do you do, Alexandra? Private training. Wellness consulting. For athletes. For people who want results and are willing to be honest about the work. Arthur chuckled. That sounds like most of this room should be terrified of you. Only the ones who lie to themselves. My mother's face lit with silent joy. James gave a careful laugh. I stared at my champagne. This evening had become a hostage situation with better lighting. Arthur and James left after another minute of polished congratulations. Arthur promised to speak soon. James said it was really lovely news. My mother thanked them with such grace that anyone watching would have thought she had not just detonated a social grenade and arranged the flowers around it. The moment they were out of earshot, Alex gently removed her hand from my mother's. Mrs. Dawson, she said very evenly, you cannot be serious. My mother turned to her with a smile. Terrace, I said. Not a suggestion. My mother looked at me. I looked back. For once, she did not argue. The terrace doors stood open beyond the